Hi, I'm Valentina, and welcome to my weekend reading vlog. So it's the second week of the Magical Readathon. It's the Owlathon, so basically the way it works is that there are prompts based on different classes, and whatever classes you take, you end up being able to take newts over the summer, and then you can get different careers, and it's very intricate and very cool, and I'll link that down below. And so it's the second week and I haven't finished a single book. I have, I think, 7 prompts that I want to fill in order to get the career as spellmaker eventually after I take the newts. And the only book that I have started so far for the Ancient Ruins class is Frostheart. And I'm really enjoying this book, but I am a grad student, and that kind of got in the way of reading this past week, so I need to kick my butt into gear and read some books this weekend. I also had to finish a different book that I started before the readathon, so I didn't actually start this book until I think Friday of last week. So Frostheart is a middle grade book, and it's about this kind of tundra-like world where people live in strongholds, these villages that are basically surrounded by snow from which these kind of monsters come out and attack them. So we follow the story of this little boy Ash, and he can do something called singing, but it's not like normal singing. It's a way to communicate with the world and with these monsters, and people frown upon it because it's considered dangerous, because while he can kind of control the monsters, they think that the monsters can also control him and bad things are going to happen. So he's banished from his village with a Yeti who is his guardian, and they go on a quest. Oh, and the reason the Yeti is his guardian is because his parents were explorers and they left when he was a kid and didn't come back. So we're not sure if they're dead or not, but the main character Ash is convinced that they're not, and he's out there trying to find them. The second book that I need to finish is Morning Star. So this is the 3rd book in the Red Rising series, and I started the audiobook before the readathon began, so I just need to finish that, and I think I have about 2 hours left of that, so that should be easy enough, and then I can start actually listening to audiobooks for the Magical Readathon. So my hope is that I complete reading, that I finish reading Frostheart, and then hopefully catch up with Magical Readathon. So if I need to read 7 books in a month, I should be reading about 2 a week, which means that I am 4 books behind. So in addition to Frostheart, I'm trying to read 3 other books this weekend, so we'll see how that goes. The rest of the night, I don't really have anything I have to do. I might play some games with my friends over Zoom. Highly recommend Jackbox games. So only one person has to buy it and download it, and then everyone can play on their phones. You screen share. Whoever, the person who buys the game has to screen share with everyone else, and then everyone else uses a phone app to play. So there are drawing games, there are like fill in the blank games, there's some trivia games. So it's definitely a good way to socialize without actually having to go see people. So highly recommend. I also just started the Umbrella Academy with a friend, so I might try to watch an episode or 2 of that tonight as well, and we're using Netflix Party for that, so we can sync up where we are in the show, and it's actually really convenient, and there's a little chat as well. So again, a second thing I recommend right now with everything going on. If you want to watch something with someone else, it's a great way to be able to do that and have that social interaction as well. So it's Saturday afternoon. I had a really hard time filming this morning because there's construction going on right outside my window, and there's a bus that comes like every half hour right outside, and I live with my grandparents, and they listen to the TV very loudly as well, so yeah, it's been hard to find some like quiet time to film any updates, but we're here, we're doing it. So I am really proud of myself because I finished Frostheart last night and I gave this book 5 stars. I mean, it was really, really cute and the pictures are amazing. Here, I'll find one. So it was a really fun read. You know, it is from the perspective of a kid, and so sometimes he does things where you're just like, no, just don't do that. But, you know, that's, I think, kind of realistic of a juvenile character. So I don't think that's really a flaw of the book at all. I think it was very convincing to the age of the character, and just in general, like, all the characters involved were very three-dimensional and fun, and yeah, and I think this is going to be a series because we kind of left off where he was still traveling in search of his parents, and yeah, so I will definitely be on the lookout for the next book. I also managed to finish Morningstar. As I think I mentioned, it's the 3rd book of the Red Rising trilogy series, and I love this series. It was so good. So the Red Rising series is a sci-fi series, and I was trying to figure out what the best way to summarize it is, and when I looked at the back of the first book, there was only like 30 sentences, and they weren't very helpful, so I'm gonna try to do my best. And basically, it's about this world where people are divided into classes based on colors. So reds are at the very bottom. They're basically slaves. They do mining and other hard labor. And then there are the golds, who are the elite, the top class that basically rules over everyone else. And our story follows Darrow, who was born a red. He was a miner, and his wife gets killed, and this basically sets him on this path of, you know, maybe questioning the gold rule, and basically he goes out to try to change the way the society is. And I'm not going to go any further into it because I think that this is one of those stories where it's better to go in not knowing all that much because there's just so many surprises. And one other thing, as like you go through the series, this doesn't really happen in the first book, but in the 2nd and the 3rd, it starts getting like Guardians in the Galaxy vibes. Like there's some like scenes that are kind of jokey, and I don't know, I love that. And I listened to the whole series on audiobook, and the narrator was absolutely amazing. They are kind of long. They're about, I think, 20 hours each. I mean, it's not like a huge fantasy novel, but they're not short, and they kind of get a little bit longer as they go. So this is the last one. But yeah, I gave this series, I think all the books, 5 stars, maybe 4 stars for one of them. I'm not sure, but one of my favorite sci-fi series for sure. Frostheart filled my Ancient Ruins prompt for the readathon, which was read a book with a heart on the cover or in the title, and Frostheart. So that's completed. The next prompt that I want to fill is Arithmancy, which the prompt was to read a book from a genre that you don't typically read, and I kind of read everything, but I read less mystery / thrillers than any other genre really. So I decided to try Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. I also want to start a new audiobook, and for that I'm giving The Raven Boys another shot. So I've tried to read it twice before, and I DNF'd it both times, and I think it's just because the writing and the characters were kind of very cliched. But I think by listening to it on audiobook, I might enjoy it a little more because I'm less focused on the writing and more focused on the dialogue and stuff like that, if that makes sense. And this will fill the prompt for Charms, which is to read a book with white on the cover. So that is my plan for probably the rest of the day. and tomorrow. I also want to possibly go for a walk today, and I also have some plants I want to repot because they're kind of outgrowing their current pots. So hopefully I can listen to the audiobook and do that later today. And then I also want to watch some of the Umbrella Academy because I didn't end up doing that yesterday. I just played a bunch of the Jackbox games with my friends from my old job. So that was a lot of fun, and yeah, so I will try to update you guys later. Good morning, it's Easter Sunday, and I didn't get a chance to update you guys last night, but I ended up reading about half of the Raven Boys while going for the walk and repotting the plants. So that is the farthest I have ever gotten in it. Still don't love the characters, they're still very cliched. There's also a very like early 2000s vibe in the book. But there was a Blink-182 reference, and I really appreciated that. I actually saw Blink-182 at Madison Square Garden, and that was an amazing show. I think that was like 2008 maybe. But yeah, like it's so interesting reading it now while I feel like a lot of people first read it when they were teens. I am definitely going to finish the book, I promise, but I think it's going to be like a 3-star read for me. I don't know if I'll continue with the series, maybe, we'll see. I also started Lock Every Door. I'm not very far into it, but my plan for the day is try to get through most of that and also finish the Raven Boys. Other than that, I'm just gonna do some cleaning and a little bit of work, and that is really it. So yeah, hopefully I get a lot of reading done today. So I managed to get about halfway through Lock Every Door. And this is a thriller about a woman who is desperate for a job. She just lost her kind of menial job, and she's living with her friend because her live-in boyfriend also cheated on her. So she's just looking for any kind of job, and there is a house sitting job, and turns out that the apartment that she's sitting is like one of the most famous buildings in New York City. So as the book goes along, we find out that this building actually has a lot of kind of unsavory things happen within it in the past, and the narrator is clearly getting spooked, and I'm not really sure where this book is going. I'm not sure if it's like a paranormal thriller or a psychological thriller, so I'm kind of interested to see what happens. But the main character is kind of annoying. I mean, I guess maybe that's the point, but she literally doesn't do anything. Like, I get she's unemployed, but she was a literature major. Like, why isn't she at least reading or something? I don't know. Like, she's just basically staring at walls and doing nothing. I mean, I would be going crazy too if I was doing nothing. She also has like a really dark, unfortunate past. Like, it seems like everything and anything bad that could have happened to this woman. So I feel really badly that now she's also stuck in this building that might be haunted, might have something else going on. I'm interested to see where it goes from here. I don't think this is going to be, my favorite book of all time, but it definitely has my interest, as, I've read half of it in the span of one morning. So I think I'm going to listen to The Raven Boys now, try to finish that up and embroider a bit. And I will let you know how that goes. As seems to be the trend of this vlog, I did not get to update you guys last night. So I ended up getting really into the embroidery project I've been working on and not only finished The Raven Boys, but actually got through half of a new book. I decided to pick up Strange Grace, which fulfills the History of Magic prompt, which is to read a book featuring a witch or a wizard. So Strange Grace takes place in this village where a witch in the past had made a deal with the devil where basically the village is protected and the harvest is bountiful and there's no sickness and so on and so forth, as long as the village sends a kind of like a sacrifice every few years. So a person, usually like the strongest male in the village, goes into this forest, Devil's Forest, I forgot what it's called, and they have to survive the night. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, and even when they do, they usually choose to leave the village afterwards because they seem to be very haunted by what they've seen. And our story follows a witch, one of the descendants of that original witch that made the deal, and two of her friends, and it's also kind of a polyamorous relationship. I think I'm really enjoying the dynamics of it. You don't see a lot of these kind of representations in books. I think it's been an interesting perspective. The other two main male characters are the strongest male in the village who knows he's going to be chosen. It's pretty much known this for most of his life. And then another character who he kind of wants to be the strongest male in the village, and he's kind of resentful of this other character because he's basically everything he wants to be. He also has an interesting backstory where as a child his mother basically dressed him as a girl and pretended he was a girl in order to protect him from being chosen to do this sacrifice. So there's a lot of gender role examination within this book. It's an interesting writing style because a lot of it is kind of fragmented. Like you get this like straight narrative and then sometimes there's these fragments thrown in. I'm not going to say what happens, but it's kind of disjointed in places and a little bit difficult to follow, but at the same time it makes it more interesting. So I'm enjoying it. About halfway through. We'll see what I think as I keep going along. So for Raven Boys, I ended up giving it, I think, 3 out of 5 stars. So I actually enjoyed the last bit of the book better than the beginning, so I'm kind of glad I stuck it all the way through. I'm still not sure if I'm going to continue on with the series. I think I might, just because I feel like this book basically set up the world and introduced us to the characters, but the real like meat of the story is going to be in the following books, and I've heard other people say they enjoyed books further along the series better as well. I'm also not entirely sure how many books there are in the series. I think 4? Probably wrong. I also finished Lock Every Door, and it was okay. I think I also gave it 3 stars. I think I already explained what it was about, but basically we follow this woman who has to house sit this really expensive apartment in Manhattan, and things start feeling weird. And yeah, I think I mentioned that she's just so boring. Like, there's nothing to this woman. She doesn't do anything, like, and then at the end, she just does such stupid things, and I guess maybe that's, you know, typical of thrillers. I don't read many, but I watched horror movies, and it's the same thing where you just like, don't go in the closet, and the person goes in the closet kind of thing. I thought that the end, the twist was okay. I mean, it was an enjoyable read, but I wouldn't say I loved it or anything like that. It wasn't particularly scary. It was just kind of like trying to figure out what was actually going on and what kind of story was taking place. So yeah, 3 out of 5 stars. I kind of want to try a few more thrillers to see if I do enjoy them or not, because I get through them quickly, but I feel like I'm never like, oh my god, that was amazing. So I want to have that feeling. I read Luminous Dead a while ago, and that's kind of a thriller, and I did enjoy that one. So I'm sure there are some out there for me. Overall, I finished 4 books this weekend and started a 5th. And I'm caught up in the Owlthon Magical Readathon, so that's super exciting. I think doing this vlogging has kind of kept me accountable to making sure I actually read. And clearly I have a lot of areas I need to work on, getting used to talking to camera for one. And I guess this is just going to be that first video that everyone finds cringy on their own channels, but you know, it is what it is, and I try to do it, and we'll see what happens. And I will see you next time.